Taliban has captured Maidan Vardan, which is 15 kilometers to the west of Kabul. There are several reports, including of the US intel, that predict that the Talibanis will take over Kabul in the next 72 hours. In the meanwhile, addressing the nation, the president of the country, Ghani, who was expected to resign, did not, and has said that he was to regroup his forces against the Talibanis. Now, as Pakistan and China close in on toppling the Afghani government, we discuss the situation in Afghanistan and our strategy around it. Let's open up this debate. Joining me on the broadcast, Dr. Wael Abad. And Dr. Wael Abad, the Talibanis are inching closer to Kabul. They are at the footholds of the capital city of the turmoil city for the past several decades. If I could actually put out this map on the broadcast for our viewers, we take a look at Lashkargah. Now, that's a province in the southern part of Afghanistan. It borders with Pakistan. Kandahar is again another of the cities, the important cities that has been taken control of by the Talibanis in collusion with Pakistan. Remember, this is in the southern part of the Central Asia map, bordering on the right side with Pakistan. We also have the other conquered territories of Zaranj, which is in Nimrud's province, Farah in the Farah province, that this happened in August 10th. August 12th was Herat. The Herat province was taken total control of by the Talibanis. This is actually nears the Iranian border on the eastern part of the Central Asia. Feruzko in Ghor province, Kalaino in Baghdis province, Sarepul which is again the Sarepul province, August 8th. There was yet another province in Jafzjan that was also captured by the Talibanis. We have Abak in Samangan province, Kunduz again captured on 8th of August, Talukan again captured on 8th of August in Takar province. We have Faizabad in Badakhshan province that actually is closer to the border of Tajikistan. Pule Khurmi in Baglan province. Pule Alam, that is the Logar province, that was captured yesterday. There was still action that was taking place in Pule Alam in Logar province, was what we were getting to know. They had captured that entire location, that entire territory, the province, and not just that, they had taken control of the radio station where they only allowed for the Taliban news to be played and stopped any sort of playing of music in that region. Ghani, again a province that was captured by the Talibanis on August 12th. Terankot in Uruzgan, again a province that was captured on 13th. And Kalat, that was in Zabul province, captured again on the August of 13th. Dr. Wael Abad, if you could give us a sense of all these very fast-paced recent developments that have taken place in the last 24 hours to 48 hours in the turmoil territory of Afghanistan. There's very little hope that this war will end, and the capture by the Talibanis of Afghanistan seems very imminent now.
Well, Mega, you have already set up the map of what is falling, and still we are counting, because within the span of 1 week, we have seen 18 provinces have fallen in the hand of Taliban, some of them without firing a shot, some of them also with some fighting, some little resistance. Mazar-e-Sharif was one example. Kandahar is another example, but ultimately every city is falling in the hand, capitals of a province falling in the hand of the Taliban, which is a clear indication for so many things that we have to take into consideration. The army of Afghanistan is not really showing any strength of fighting against the Taliban, who are more organized, more ferocious in their fighting, and more determined to take back whatever has been taken by the United States and when they pushed them out of power in 2001. So having said that, I would say also there are other elements which also the president of Ashraf Ghani have said it, that there is a proxy war fighting in Afghanistan, which is a clear indication also that the Taliban, they are not fighting alone. So who is behind the Taliban, who is supporting them, that they have been taking over so quickly, and the United States have given them Afghanistan and the golden platter. So these are the issues that the Taliban is being focusing, and I think Kabul is a matter of time. It's just any time they can take Kabul. It's not a question. No, the question is the technical delay or the tactical delay that they are trying to reach to kind of a compromise, or put the pressure, put the gun on the head of President Ghani that he should agree for a sort of a transitional government. He resigned and the Taliban takes over. So there is an international recognition for a government recognized and accepted by the previous government. So therefore, I think that is the game plan which now they are setting up the tone for it, because we have seen what happened in Doha. And Doha have said that none of the international community is willing to recognize any government taking by force Taliban if they take by force the ruling on Kabul. So all this had taken place. It gives you a clear indication that the Taliban having the upper hand. And I think Ashraf Ghani reminded me actually of when I was watching him on his speech on television. I'm sorry to say, but I remember Muammar al-Gaddafi when he was calling his friends, the French President Sarkozy, and requesting him that to stop those terrorists from attacking him and killing him, while the intelligence of France were guiding the terrorists and tracking his phone, where they have tracked him and they killed him in a cold blood. So therefore, Ashraf Ghani, I think he is not in a good position, and he is not in a position to be invaded by anybody at this stage.
Ambassador Amar Sinha, in wake of this immense pressure that has been garnered by the Talibanis in support of the Pakistanis, that President Ashraf Ghani actually resign for any sort of resolution to be brought about in Afghanistan. Well, all hopes of that have been dashed, thankfully, keeping in mind that very important, crucial speech of the President that was relayed just a few hours ago mentions categorically that he has no intention whatsoever of resigning from his post, and only showcasing his steadfast resolve to figure out the situation, fight it out with the Talibanis, and not let go as yet.
That's true. In fact, he has been saying this for a long time. That has been his position. Obviously, that is not acceptable to Taliban. And I agree with Mr. Awad that there is a certain plan that Taliban would not like to just come and grab Kabul. In fact, if they go through a transitional government, they also fulfill the other part of the Doha agreement, that it was a negotiated settlement, though the negotiations are being held under the point of a gun. Obviously, President Ghani's statement will not satisfy anybody. In fact, if you recall that a month ago, Secretary Blinken himself had sent a letter to President Ghani, which basically hinted that you please resign and you create a transition arrangement. So I guess they are trying to unveil this, go back to the same Blinken plan and do something. So I don't know. Is this the final word? I don't know. Because this is going to leave everybody dissatisfied. The Taliban, in fact, the political leadership in Kabul also is quite unhappy, besides the negotiators sitting in Doha.
You're absolutely right. General G. Dwivedi, in this time, the kind of support that is required from the Indian forces and the Indian diplomacy in wake of the vacuum that has been created in China, inching closer to keeping a balance between the terrorist organization, that is Taliban, which it is in close conjunction working with the Al-Qaeda in Pakistan.
Well, Megha, I think Afghan tragedy was waiting to happen. And I can go back point in time in 2016. I was doing a course at Howard Kennedy School of National and International Security, where more than 24 American officers were also generals were attending, and I could make out from the vibes in the room that Americans have lost the stamina to continue, and one could make very clear indications that it's a matter of time how soon Americans get out. Now, that being the background, let's understand 2-3 very important things. When the proxy war and conventional warfare locked horns, you know, as far as the proxy war is concerned, more the status quo is maintained, more they win. And as far as conventional forces are concerned, more the status quo is maintained, more they lose. So Americans actually have got exhausted and they are finding a way to get out. But unfortunately, the way they struck the deal with the Taliban without any conditions, I think they gave Afghanistan to Taliban on platter. Now, coming to your question specifically, I think India has been dealt out. our options are very, very limited. And Taliban couldn't care less as to who recognizes them, who doesn't, as long as China is there. And Chinese have no qualms because they held on to North Korea for the last 70 years. I happen to be defense stash in North Korea. And Chinese will hold on to Taliban because they have a great design. And that is how to carry the CPEC right into Afghanistan, and Taliban today are stronger. They have a 1.6 billion economic clout, and they are well positioned. And also, I think China has played this card very well along with Pakistan. Now, two things are very, very important. I think how India plays it out, on table, on diplomatic table, it is how strong they are on the ground. And I think on the ground we are very weak. So obviously on the diplomatic table, we don't have many cards to play. I think we have to wait and watch as to how exactly it is going to play out. But more important than that, we have to ensure that Pakistan doesn't get a free run into Afghanistan along with Taliban and also the Chinese. So therefore, we have two options to play it out. One is that whatever is the world opinion today, we must ensure that Taliban government, which is going to come by force on the point of the gun, doesn't get a free recognition. And secondly, we continue to hold on to a strategic interest, and there are very many ways to do that. I don't have to tell them on the TV channel, but I am sure we still have certain amount of leverage behind the scene.
Savio, I'll come to you, keeping in mind that it's a losing battle that Afghanistan and the rest of the nations that are supporting the Afghanistani government are fighting with the Talibanis that have conclusive support of the Pakistanis, the terrorist outfits that are operating out of Pakistan and China. There are 17 to 18 of these very important, crucial, strategic provinces out of the 34 districts in Afghanistan that are in total control of Taliban at this point of time. There is Sharia law that at this point of time has been given prominence, recognition in these 17, 18 of the provinces. How is it that these nations, including President Ashraf Ghani, is going to be able to fight it out till the end and not allow for the Talibanis to enter Kabul, which they already have? They are out on the footholds.
Let's accept one very important fact, that Taliban is a terrorist organization. Now, according to Forbes report in 2016, Taliban was the 5th richest terrorist organization. The NATO confidential report that came out in 2019-2020 pegged the actual economy of the Taliban at 1.4 billion. Now, where is Taliban getting its money? And in 2016, Taliban was not in power. So its money is coming from mining, its money is coming from drug trafficking, its money is coming from foreign donations. In 2019-2020, $500 million came to the Taliban from foreign sources. Who are these foreign sources? Are we going to deny the fact that today, because a terrorist organization continues to run rampage in a country like Afghanistan, we are going to accept it and allow for the terrorists to seize Afghanistan? Is that what the world is going to allow to happen? People are saying and hoping that better sense will prevail with the Taliban. Do you ever think that Taliban has better sense? There is nothing that you can negotiate with a terrorist. Taliban must be brought down by world power. It must be taught a lesson. The Sharia law that they are bringing into Afghanistan must be crushed, because at the end of the day, Taliban is a terrorist organization. There are no two ways about it. This terrorist organization is strongly funded with people who have interest in destabilizing geopolitics in the region. And India must be aware, because the next target of this is going to be India. Therefore, we cannot take Taliban lightly. We must put in measures to deal with the terrorists in Taliban. They cannot be shown any mercy, Men, women, and even children are in danger as far as Taliban is concerned. And the people of Afghanistan need world support.
You're absolutely right, but then the big question arises, how do we do that? Because these peace talks that have been taking place in Moscow, that have been taking place in the United States, and more importantly in Doha have continued. There has been a stalemate, and Taliban continues to pull the kind of pressure on these world economies, including you're not negotiating, but then they're not leaving us any choice. At this point of time, they have taken total control. There are 17 to 18 of these provinces that have been under the capture of the Talibanis. They do not listen to any logic, any sense. They play by the gun, and they are supported by terrorist organization, the terror deep state Pakistan, that is its neighbor in the south. So what is the action that we bring about on the table? Because I think the game is already lost when it comes to the diplomatic channels that India, United States, United Kingdom, and Moscow and Turkey, they all are playing. We are talking about Taliban taking control of Afghanistan and how to stop it from doing that. Dr. Vail Awad, I'll come back to you. And while Savio very importantly says that there is no way of negotiating with the terrorist organization, and that's exactly what has been happening by way of diplomacy channels that United States and Moscow and India and other nations, Qatar, they all have been using that, but to no avail whatsoever. Back in 1996, when the Taliban had taken control of Afghanistan up till 2001, when the United States then brought about its troops and allowed for a stabilized government in Afghanistan, and overthrowing the terrorist organization that was Taliban. It looks like with the withdrawal of the US troops, the power of the Talibanis has increased manifold. What is going to be the solution with this massive war that is going on in Central Asia, and India's strategic interests also lie importantly over here?
Mega, in 2000, when we were stationed in Peshawar in the northern part of Afghanistan, there was Ahmad Shah Massoud. Yet Ahmad Shah Massoud was there. They had only 5% of the territory, and they were still fighting the Taliban before the United States steps in, and they have taken Taliban out of power. And Kabul fell, but the problem of the people are not understanding the culture of the tribe in Afghanistan. Even the United States, even Ashraf Ghani, I'm sorry to say, he could not follow the style of the Taliban functioning. They are trying to bring the Pashtun card in their fighting inside Afghanistan into the ethnic group of Afghanistan, where every ethnic group is already being supported by the neighboring countries. So therefore, there is no winner in Afghanistan. There is no question that there is one party going to take over Afghanistan. Therefore, there has to be some sort of a national government where maybe the Taliban has to be part of the government. Why? Because they are representing the Baluchi people, and that is where the Pakistanis are, the Pashtun. That is where the Pakistani going to face the music also. It's going to be a very tough time in days to come for Pakistan, also because the Taliban in Pakistan is more dangerous to Pakistan than to Afghanistan. We have said that earlier. So I think the Taliban may, there is no good or bad Taliban. They are Wahhabi, they are Salafists, they are terrorists, they have been trained, they have been emerged from the schools, madrasas in Pakistan before the jihadist culture, before 1979. All these have been happening, and in the front of the eyes of the rest of the world, where the CIA, ISI, and Saudi intelligence have supported, nourished them along with Al-Qaeda. So now when they are taking over, and we are having the crocodile tears that we are worried about the human rights issues and the civilian of Afghanistan, I tell you that the maximum number of Afghani civilians have been killed during this invasion and during this occupation. So for 20 years, the Americans were not able to build Afghanistan or an infrastructure for Afghanistan, where the Taliban were allowed even to control more than 40% of Afghanistan during the occupation of the United States. So when you reach a deal with a terrorist organization in February in Doha, and you walk out of the country in an honorable exit, you expect that this Taliban will leave it open for the rest of the country to fill up the security vacuum? So my point here is, Taliban is now a force to reckon with, and the international community, a neighboring country of Afghanistan, should step in to make sure that terrorism does not come back to Afghanistan, that the commitment of most of the ethnic group in Afghanistan should be honored, and should have taken equal right in their ruling of their own country.
Okay.
Because Afghanistan going to face the music, and I think Balkanization of Afghanistan is more on the card rather than having one part Afghanistan.
Okay, then Ambassador Amar Sinha, I'll come back to you, and with regards to terrorization of Afghanistan, with regards to balkanization of Afghanistan, it has already commenced, perhaps at the brink of total annihilation when it comes to the terrorist organization, the Taliban wresting total control. What exactly can be done besides these world economies calling out Taliban, saying that they are not going to recognize Afghanistan if it is taken total control of by the Taliban? Would it really matter to the Taliban, to those warlords who continue to take pleasure in the fact that what happened decades ago until 2001 is something that has again resurged with a massive vengeance?
Well, you've asked a number of questions. You see, there is only two ways any war can end. Either there is a military defeat on one side, or there's a deal making. And the Afghan way, as you have seen over the last couple of weeks, obviously has relied more on deal making and tribal influencing on the commanders. That's why a number of provinces have fallen without a fight. It's not that Afghan forces were not well trained. They are, but of course they had problems in logistics. The other question is, will Taliban listen to anyone? Well, I think the entire international community has been engaged with them. But the problem is that these negotiations and demands on Taliban are being made too late in the day. When you have, all this should have been part of the deal in February 2020, not now. Today you are really going back to them and telling them that I have given you a yard, please give me back an inch. No, the old saying is that you give an inch and somebody asks a yard. And that is a reality, unfortunately. Look at what UN Security Council can do today. I think nothing, because ISAF, the 3 NATO countries which are permanent members of the UN Security Council, were there involved in the war for the last 20 years. They saw how it unfolded, what strengthened Taliban, how it has become such a potent force that it defeated perhaps the largest militaries. 2 more, Russia and China, the other 2 permanent 5, are part of the troika which are engaging with Taliban. Is Taliban listening to any one of them? Obviously, the answer is no. So they have got a momentum of their own. They are very certain that they are going to gain power. And then they will make a deal. And that deal would really be that what is it that I offer to the rest? Because ultimately they feel that they were in Afghanistan in 2001, 2006, and they need to be reinstated. So, in fact, it's a very peculiar policy which Americans have followed, which is they are leaving Afghanistan as they found it. This is a great environmental norm, but in diplomacy, that is what I see unfolding. And unfortunately, I don't see very bright future right now for Afghanistan. It will be tough days, and it will be for the Afghans to resist this. And unless that mobilization happens, I don't think the international community is in a position right now to do much.
You're absolutely right, keeping in mind that while the direct impact of it will be witnessed by the poor Afghan people, the massive repercussions will be witnessed by the world, especially the developed economies when it comes to United Kingdom, United States, France, etc. The radical Islam that is being spread, the fundamentalist Islam that is being spread by the likes of the Al-Qaedas and the Taliban is something that the world needs to be wary of. This is the question that the Biden administration and the Trump administration would be asked of when the history books are written, keeping in mind this withdrawal of the troops has led to the monster, the Frankenstein, that has come out yet again after the succumbing of the powers of the Taliban back in 2001, when America took control and finally brought to rest, which has now again become a resurgent power, unfortunately and venomously for the world and Afghanistan especially.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.